Mr. President, I know, first of all, let me say I'm enormously touched and gratified about the warm words that my colleagues have spoken on both sides of the aisle. And I'm particularly moved by the fact of the men of Maryland who are here today. The wonderful words of Senator Cardin, my colleague, and also here today, Governor O'Malley and when I came to the Senate, my senior colleague, Paul Sarbanes. Governor O'Malley and Senator Sarbanes are over here, but they're on the bench, but these men are certainly not backbenchers. And I must say about the governor and Senator Sarbanes, Senator Cardin, they prove the old adage that men of quality will always support good women who seek equality. And I've enjoyed their support, their wise counsel, and their collegial efforts in behalf of the people of Maryland in my years in Maryland politics. It's a great honor to be here today, passing this significant benchmark where I become the longest-serving woman in the history of the Congress, both in the House, where I served 10 years, in the Senate. It's a great honor for me to be able to pass into the history books with an esteemed person like Senator Margaret Chase Smith. And we spoke about that in January 2011 when I was sworn in. There were tributes that day and wonderful, wonderful words from our two women senators from Maine. And today, actually over the weekend, I surpassed the record of Edith Nourse Rogers, who was the longest-serving woman in the House. Both of those women came from New England. They were both hardy, resilient, and fiercely independent. As I've read their histories, so admired them. They were known for a devotion to constituent service, an unabashed sense of patriotism, and kind of telling it like it is. I hope that as I join them in the history books, that I can only continue with the same spirit of devotion to duty and that fierce independence and patriotism. Mr. President, I didn't start out wanting to be a historic figure. You know, you don't say, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a historic figure. When I was growing up, it was about service. For me, it's not how long I serve. It's not about history. For me, history books were Jane Addams and Abigail Adams and powdered wigs, and I just welcome a day where I have time to even powder my nose, let alone powder my wig. But the fact was that what I wanted to grow up was to be of service. And I learned that in my home, in my family, in my community, and with the wonderful nuns who taught me. My colleagues here have talked about my wonderful mother and father. I had a terrific mother and father, and I'm so happy today that my two sisters and my fantastic brother-in-laws are joining me here today. I only wish my mother and father could be here with me because they worked so hard to see that my sisters and I had an education, at significant sacrifice to them. But they were really wonderful people, and you saw them in a life of business. Every day, my father would open his grocery store and say, "Good morning, can I help you?" And when he did, he wanted to be sure that his customers got a fair deal. And he opened his grocery store during the New Deal because he believed in Roosevelt. And as my father said, "Barb, I knew Roosevelt believed in me." Then I also had the benefit of the wonderful Catholic nuns who educated me. I had the benefit of going to a school called the Institute of Notre Dame and then Mount St. Agnes College, the Sisters of Notre Dame and the Sisters of Mercy. These women who had concentrated their life to the message of Christianity and the message of Jesus Christ really wanted to make sure that women in America could learn and be part of our society. They didn't only teach us our 3 R's, they taught us about leadership and service, but they also taught us about other values, the values of love your neighbor, care for the sick, worry about the poor, be hungry and thirst after justice. When I was at the Institute of Notre Dame, a school that Nancy Pelosi went to as well, there was something called the Christopher Movement, after St. Christopher. And it said it was better to light one little candle than to curse the darkness. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a social worker. I even thought about being a doctor. One time, I even thought about being a Catholic nun, but that vow of obedience kind of slowed me down a little bit. Because, Mr. President, in this country, wonderful things happen. When my great-grandmother came to this country, she had little money in her pocket, but a big dream in her heart, that she could be part of the American dream, that she could own a home in her own name, in her own right, that she could have a job, and that so could the people in her own family, and that based on merit and hard work, you could be something. Well, in 3 generations, I've become a United States Senator. Only in America, the story of my family could have occurred. Modest beginnings, hard work, effort, neighbor helping neighbor. And as much has been said about my fight for the highway, I was really thinking about getting a doctorate in public health at Johns Hopkins. But they were going to run that highway through the neighborhood, the older ethnic neighborhood, African-American neighborhoods. We were viewed in some of those neighborhoods as the other side of the tracks. I wanted to fight to keep those neighborhoods on track. So I took on City Hall, and I did fight them. And in this country, what happened? In another country, they would have taken a protester like me and put me in jail. Instead, in the United States of America, they sent me to the city council. I worked hard there, and 5 years later, when Senator Paul Sarbanes, who was a congressman, ran for the Senate, I ran for his House seat, and I got the job. When I arrived in the House in 1976, only 19 women were serving, 14 Democrats and 5 Republicans, only 5 women of color. When in 2012, there are 74 women in the House, 50 Democrats, 24 Republicans, 26 women of color. And here in the Senate, there are now 17 women serving, 12 Democrats, 5 Republicans. Today, we saw here visiting us was Senator Carol Moseley Braun, a woman of color who served well while she was here. Those are the numbers, and those were the statistics. And though I joined this long number of first, for me, it's not how long I've served, but how well I've served. When I came to the Congress, I became a member of the fabulous 3rd Congressional District. My job was to represent a blue-collar community that was in economic transition. What did we do? We were a community that built things here so we could ship them over there. We built cars. We built ships. We made steel. We knew that if a country didn't make something and build something, it couldn't make something of itself. I fought for those blue-collar people. I fought to keep those jobs in manufacturing. We fought for the Port of Baltimore, its dredging, so we could bring in the big ships so that we could have exports. We worked again for those people in those manufacturing areas while we saw jobs go overseas. And then we worked very hard for cities to make sure that our cities were safe, that we had great schools, and that they had a chance of making it. I fought hard for health care. One of my greatest pieces of legislation was the Spousal Impoverishment Act, that if one spouse went into a nursing home, the other spouse wouldn't have to spend down their life savings so that they would lose their home. AARP tells me my legislation of so many years ago that stands today have kept 1 million people from losing their home or their family farm. Those were the battles then. Those were the battles when I changed my address when I came to the United States Senate. Though I changed my address, the battles are still the same. Jobs, social justice, opportunity based on hard work, peace in the world, and continue to fight for this. But for me, it's not only about issues. Issues are so abstract. Issues can be so bloodless when we talk about it. For me, issues are about people. The people I represented in my own hometown the people I represent in my state, and the people I know live in the United States of America. My favorite thing is being out there talking to the people, going into diners, going table to table, listening to their stories, holding roundtables with parents whose children have special needs, meeting with scientists who have discoveries that they think will lead to new ideas and new products that'll be new jobs, universities that train our workforce. For me, it's about the people. So as I pass this important benchmark, which I am so honored to do, I want people to know I still am that young girl that watched her father open up that grocery store every day and say, "Good morning, can I help you?" I'm still that young girl that went to the Institute of Notre Dame in Mount St. Agnes College that said, "I want to light one little candle. I don't want to curse the darkness." I want to continue to fight for a strong economy, a safer America, the people of Maryland. And in conclusion, I just want to say thanks. I want to thank the dear Lord for giving me the chance to be born in the greatest country in the world, to be able to work hard and serve in one of the greatest institutions in the United States of America. But nobody gets to be a me without a whole lot of thee. I want to thank my family. I want to thank the religious women that educated me. I want to thank all of my staff that worked so hard to help me do a good job. And I want to thank the countless of volunteers who believed in me and worked for my election when nobody else did. And most of all, I want to thank the people of the 3rd Congressional District and the state of Maryland who saying, "Barb, we're going to give you your shot. Don't ever forget this. Don't ever forget us." And I want them to know, though I've now served in the Senate 12,892 days, I will never forget them. And every morning I'm saying in my heart, "Good morning, can I help you?" Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Bravo.